everybody says, my gosh, I'm scared. This is it. I got to get out.
Gas prices are hitting an all-time high.
Three-quarters of Americans think the economy is now
the price of just about everything. Milk,
The
bread,
Fed is doing
eggs,
things it hasn't done basically since the Great Depression.
Investors are
trying to
worried
save
about the falling
financial
dollar and
markets in this
ongoing problems in the U.S. Meanwhile, the euro continued to climb into record territory against the dollar.
I don't think we're headed to a recession. Our fundamentals, I still believe, are very strong.
I don't believe we're headed into a recession.
What did you just say? You're predicting $4 a gallon. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Why do you think that a recession is coming? Just how bad is it going to be?
I think it's going to be pretty bad, and whether it starts in 07 or 08, I think is immaterial. And I also think it's going to last not just for quarters, but for years.
What is the worst case scenario if, in fact, we were to see prices come down substantially across the country?
Well, I guess I don't buy your premise. It's a pretty unlikely possibility. We've never had a decline in house prices on a nationwide basis. So what I think is more likely is that house prices will slow, maybe stabilize, might slow consumption spending a bit. I don't think it's going to drive the economy too far from its full employment path, though.
Federal Reserve Board Chairman Ben Bernanke says it's a severe contraction, but stressed the government is doing everything possible to turn it around.
There is a reasonable prospect that the current recession will end in 2009 and that 2010 will be a year of recovery.
So it's time we look at the strategic, the philosophical problems, and I say unless we do this, this will end badly. It's going to end with a major economic crisis. It's going to be worldwide, and we here at home will suffer, not only economically, but inevitably under these conditions the people lose their liberty, and our liberties are being eroded every single day that we're here. The deficit is going to get a lot worse, and I'm predicting within a couple years, it will not surprise me one bit to see the national debt, the national obligation for future generations, to rise in 1 year of $750 billion. And that is a very possible number. And like it has been expressed so often today, we need to do something about it. The question is, what are we going to do about it?
Gas prices is $4 per gallon. This is ridiculous. Y'all gotta weigh up y'all lifestyle now. Man, gas so high, I filled up my tank the other day, cost me $75. $75 damn dollars. I'm glad y'all came out. Times was hard, real hard.
Last week, the dollar hit a 3-decade low against the Canadian dollar.
The stock market suffered one of its worst days in years Monday.
Is it the worst you've ever seen in your career? Oh, by far.
This is a financial system that is coming apart at the seams.
Economic team reports that our economy has a solid foundation. Economy is still creating jobs. Consumer spending is still growing. Outside experts expect that our economy will continue to grow over the coming year.
Do you think there's a risk of a recession? How do you rate that?
You know, you need to talk to economists. I think I got a B in that Econ 101.
News waking up to the American investment bank Lehman Brothers has filed for bankruptcy in New York. That's happened in the last few minutes.
Let's go down to the NYMEX.
Oil down more than $4. Traders here working the phone say a lot of their customers are freaked out, waiting to see how low the Dow will go.
On Friday, the biggest bailout in US history was estimated to be in the region of $500 billion.
Where the stock market has just closed and there has been a massive sell-off. Investors worried about the economy dumped stock, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged more than 500 points, 512 points, a little over 4%. The Dow has now given back all of its gains for the year and then some.
When you borrow money, you have to pay interest on the amount you owe. And interest keeps making the amount you owe bigger. If the amount you owe is so big that all you can do is pay part of the interest, you're in trouble. In a nutshell, this is the problem facing pretty much every government in the world. Country A takes money out of its economy to make interest payments to Country B. This means Country A's economy contracts. People lose their jobs and stop paying taxes. In order to keep making debt payments, Country A then has to take out more loans, and the debt burden gets bigger. Here's the bizarre part. Even if Country B also owes money to Country A and turns right around and makes a payment to Country A, they're both still getting poorer because interest keeps making their debts bigger. Inevitably, fiscal conservatives start demanding that their governments cut spending on things like social services, infrastructure, and education in order to keep making debt payments. When that happens, the people who live in these countries get upset that the government isn't doing anything for them, and instead sending a tremendous amount of money to foreigners. They then get angry at two sets of people, foreigners and the government. And that's about the time the real unpleasantness begins.
I could end the deficit in 5 minutes. You just pass a law that says that anytime there's a deficit of more than 3% of GDP, all sitting members of Congress are ineligible for re-election.
All right, the sorry state of the job market is hardly news for college students graduating this spring, and they should be worried as they will be flooding the labor force at a time when there are already 5 million unemployed Americans for each single job opening that is out there. They are also deep in debt, 24,000 in the hole on average, and there's even a student debt clock now where the total is approaching for all of our students nearly, yes, $1 trillion.
I wish the president would start talking about the economy and stop trying to divert with all the silliness day in and day out of he and his team. Let's focus on what people care about. And the issue people care about is the one that's affecting us, which is their pocketbooks, their gasoline prices, the cost of higher education, the need for more jobs, the need for higher incomes. Let's focus on helping the people who need the help the most.
We've got some work to do. I don't mind, by the way, being responsible. I expect to be held responsible for these issues because I'm the president. But I don't want the folks who created the mess, I don't want the folks who created the mess to do a lot of talking. I want them just to get out of the way so we can clean up the mess. I don't mind cleaning up after them, but don't do a lot of talking.
I think there is a worry about a double-dip recession still. Things have been looking better in the U.S., not so much in Europe. We're related to and the developing world is not as strong as we had expected. So it's not clear. I think that there still is, it looks less likely now, but I still think there's a risk of a double-dip recession. We're not in a recession now. We're supposedly in a recovery, but we still have 8.6% unemployment. I think it's a good likelihood that we'll go through years more of high unemployment, whether or not there's a recession. That's the outlook right now. It's not disastrous. It's not the end of the world, but I think government policy should be much more vigorous in attacking this problem. Well, the economy makes a big difference. The unemployment rate, it was supposed to be such good news that it came down to 8.6%. But that was really kind of misleading. If you look at the employment population ratio, it's still in the doldrums. So a lot of people are discouraged, they think they won't get a job, so they give up looking. That's not a good sign for the housing market or for the economy.
But the overall trend that we've seen over the last 15 months, 2 million, over 2 million jobs created over the past 15 months. A rebounding of the manufacturing sector in the United States that's exemplified by the recovery of the big three automakers here. All indicates that we have set a path that will lead us to long-term economic growth. But we've still got some enormous work to do.
And 3.5 years later, we're still recovering from the worst economic crisis in our lifetimes. And we've got a lot of work to do before everybody who wants a good job can find one. Before middle-class folks regain that sense of security that had been slipping away even before the recession hit, and before towns like Petersburg get fully back on their feet. But here's the good news. Over the past 2 years, our businesses have added nearly 4 million new jobs. We just found out that last month in February we added 233,000 private sector jobs. More companies are bringing jobs back and investing in America. And manufacturing is adding jobs for the first time since the 1990s. We just had another good month last month in terms of adding manufacturing jobs. And this facility is part of the evidence of what's going on all across the country. This company is about to hire more than 200 new workers, 140 of them right here in Petersburg, Virginia. So the economy is getting strong. When I come to places like this and I see the work that's being done, it gives me confidence there are better days ahead.